Again, everyone. Welcome back to the Fandom Zone podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the Fandom Zone once again, ready to talk more WandaVision, and this is a big one with my wonderful co-hosts, wonderful friends, and just all around delightful people. Jesse Jackson and DJ Nick. How you doing, guys?
Awesome. We are doing great. I am looking forward to talking about this latest chapter in this WandaVision saga.
How about you, Nick?
Same here. Agent Nick reporting for duty, sir.
Nice. You need something at the end of that. Like something that maybe
Agent Sword report.
The agent, something perhaps furious after that Nick, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I could steal that Agent Nick Fury, I suppose. Yes.
Only it's N-I-K as opposed to N-I-C-K. Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously, we're talking episode 4 of WandaVision here at episode 203, and this is the episode titled We Interrupt This Program, which is a very nice way of stating that we're breaking format already in the 4th episode as we finally get some much-needed backstory of the events surrounding the series and some big revelations in the process. This aired just a couple days ago, January 29th, 2021, and was written by Bobek Esfarjani and Megan McDonnell, who wrote the previous episode, Now in Color. And she also is writing Captain Marvel 2, which makes her a perfect choice to write this episode because we get a lot of backstory on a certain Monica Rambeau, Captain Monica Rambeau, who last we saw in the first Captain Marvel movie as a young child, now an adult, and get some big revelations as we pick up with her coming back from her being blipped out of existence during the events of Avengers Endgame. So this should be a lot of great things to talk about. And this was directed by Max Schachman and ran 34 whole minutes this time. So, wow, we broke a half an hour on this one. Hooray. Okay. Way to push the envelope there, Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, guys, obviously, this is a big episode. Before we run down some new cast members, I definitely want to get your thoughts. Jesse, we'll start with you first. And what is your general thoughts in this big episode?
For the people who have been complaining about, I don't like this format, I don't understand what's going on, how does this fit in the universe? We got an episode that kind of says you politely, shut the F up, we know what we're doing.
Right.
And I really love seeing that. I thought, once again, I think they have the showrunners and creative team have earned our trust now that, they push the limit for the 3 episodes. Now then they kind of, exactly what the title says. We interrupt this program. You kind of catch up what's going on, fills a lot of theories that people like we have had. And so it's been great. And the other thing is, I said last time, I think the reason they don't release the show titles, it is too spoilerish. And I think this another proves that. Like they after the point, they like to release the titles because it kind of helps surprise, but it gives you a satisfying, kind of extra peek into it.
Well, The Mandalorian doesn't do that either until they release the episodes. So it's just kind of a Disney Plus thing I think they're doing. But in this case, we interrupt this program. It just kind of tells you there's a break in the action, but it doesn't really tell you that much more than that. But at least the much dreaded intern finally got his act together, and we get the episode title with the actual episode once again. So hooray. Hopefully we're back on track now. So Nick, how about you? What are your thoughts on this wonderful episode?
Yes, I'm glad that Gary the intern actually got his stuff together. He can go home now.
Gary!
He was locked in the office, and now he can go home. Nice job there, Gary. Keep it up. But outside
now, is this Gary from Legends of Tomorrow, like moonlighting as the WandaVision intern? I'm just kind of wondering about that.
I have a feeling, he's kind of between universes. He's between jobs, right? So
right.
Now while he's waiting for...
Well, he's got to do something on hiatus, right? Yeah, I guess so.
Exactly.
Got to pay those bills.
So that's why I imagined, this, as I said, Gary from Legends of Tomorrow kind of rushing around, kind of just mucking stuff up as usual. But no, this episode was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it. I love that we kind of got, our theories, some of our theories found confirmation. We were kind of, kicking around what's going on outside of what we've been seeing so far. And I love that we actually got, literally the behind the curtains. So we got what was happening in the interim while what we had seen in the first 3 episodes was going on. And I thought it was brilliant. And not to mention so many Easter eggs, Charles, so many Easter eggs. I didn't have to go as crazy on my board this time. I have a few things.
Okay.
But I'm kind of becoming like Steve Kornacki, kind of doing all.
Yeah, from MSNBC. I can see what you're doing. Yeah.
but no.
Everybody loves Kornacki, so that everybody's going to love Nick as a result. I think.
I don't know if I'm good as Mr. Kornacki, but I'll try. But other than that, I absolutely love this. It's so satisfying, and hopefully folks won't be like, another boring episode, as Jesse was saying. So It really kicked this thing into action. So I love that. We've come full circle. We've seen now the connection with the MCU at large, which was great.
I want to second Jesse's comment that this was the episode that hopefully shut up a lot of haters that were, 1-starring the reviews of the first couple episodes because they didn't like the pacing and that it was just too slow for them for whatever reason. And they just couldn't get into it because it wasn't a typical Marvel Cinematic Universe slugfest of good guys punching out bad guys. This was a different type of story, and we tried to tell you this. We told you this from the get-go. This is no surprise. So, needless to say, here at episode 4, after these big revelations, we're going to try not to be too smug about this, but we probably will be a little smug because we totally called this one, you guys.
Yes, we did.
We totally called this from the get-go, and we're totally proven right. So, as good, loyal comic book fans, we saw this coming a mile away, and sure enough, now there could be more. Maybe there's more to the story, but we at least called this far. So we'll see how things pay off. And, this episode for me, just speaking in general terms before we get into our topics, I loved it from the get-go, from beginning to end, especially the end, because there was a wonderful, delightful song that played at the very end of this episode that, as a certain fan of one Jimi Hendrix and the Jimi Hendrix Experience, I love that. I love the fact that we got the classic song, Voodoo Child, Slight Return.
Yeah.
So I got to do this in honor of that. Yeah!
Gotta love that guitar riff.
All right. Had to do that. So, I'm a big Hendrix fan, so I was all over that ending, and it just sealed my love of this episode. All right.
So are you experienced, Charles?
Yes. Have you ever been experienced? Well, I have.
Yes, indeed.
All right. So, cast this time, we get since this is called We Interrupt This Program, we kind of take a break from focusing so much on Paul Bettany as the Vision and Elizabeth Olsen as the Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff. Probably, much to their relief because this kind of gave them a little bit of a break from carrying these first 3 episodes. And we focus instead on Teyonah Parris, who is officially confirmed as Captain Monica Rambeau. The character up until now that we only knew as Geraldine is revealed as Monica Rambeau, the daughter of Maria Rambeau, or Maria Photon Rambeau, as her call sign. that when she was serving in the Air Force with Carol Danvers. And we get the return of Kat Dennings as now Dr. Darcy Lewis. So Jane Foster's intern finally finished her doctorate and is now kind of doing her own astrophysicist thing, this time being brought in as a consultant for SWORD, which we'll talk about more in our trivia. Kat Dennings, obviously, she had appeared previously in the first two Thor movies, Thor and Thor the Dark World. So I don't know about you guys, but I was really glad to see her back because she brought, just a much-needed comic relief to this episode, and it also kind of developed her character a little bit, as she's like the one person that starts piecing things together. And we'll talk more about Darcy, obviously. We also get Randall Park as Jimmy Woo, FBI agent Jimmy Woo, but he's working here with SWORD after some interesting developments involving a town called Westview in New Jersey. And he previously appeared in Ant-Man and the Wasp, where he was essentially kind of like the parole officer for Scott Lang. And he's obviously been confirmed here as the mysterious voice on the radio that was trying to reach out to Wanda, which we mentioned was probably the case. And sure enough, it was. We get the introduction of Josh Stamberg as director Tyler Hayward. And he's a character that has never appeared in a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie or Marvel Comics. He's brand new for the show. But the actor has been in the 2002 Time Machine. He's also been in Legion, the 2010 film, which, hey, starred Paul Bettany. So it's good to know people, right? Just saying, it's a very interesting coincidence. He was also in the movies J. Edgar, and he was on the TV show, episodes of the TV shows Castle and The Good Wife. So I'm guessing Jesse might have recognized him.
Absolutely.
And trivia, if you want to know a little bit about SWORD, I'm guessing Jesse probably is not very familiar with SWORD.
What you guys have already shared with me is the only thing I know, so yeah.
Yeah, so SWORD, if you're a comics fan, you know that SWORD was created by Joss Whedon. Yes, that Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Joss Whedon, and Justice League, Joss Whedon, and the first two Avengers films, Joss Whedon, and also artist John Cassaday, and first appeared in 2004's Astonishing X-Men Volume 3, Number 6, as, and this is an interesting distinction here, the Sentient World Observation and Response Department, who was overseen by a character named Abigail Brand, who hopefully we'll see at some future point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with a purpose to deal with extraterrestrial threats to world security. But here in WandaVision, the organization was apparently founded by Maria Rambeau, Monica's mother, and their full name is the Sentient Weapon, not World, Observation and Response Division, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe just can't use those full original titles from, like they did with S.H.I.E.L.D. from the comics. They always got to change something. Why? I have no idea, but they do. And SWORD, interestingly enough, was originally supposed to appear in the Thor movie from 2011 in a deleted post scene where Eric Selvig was supposed to tell Jane Foster and Darcy Lewis to, quote, cross-reference with the SWORD database. So it makes perfect sense that they kind of remembered that unused idea, and they decided, well, hey, why don't we bring Darcy in for SWORD? So I thought that was kind of cool. But because of complications with 20th Century Fox, which owned the characters Abigail Brand at the time, they cut the scene. But now, hey, Disney owns 20th Century Fox. At least they're the rights, the film rights once again, so maybe we'll get Abigail Brand at some point. Might be a good way to introduce the X-Men, too. And got a little background on who the actual characters in the WandaVision series within a series are in the town residents of Westview. And we get some explanations that Mr. and Mrs. Hart are actually called Todd and Sharon Davis. These were the characters that were played by Fred Melamed and Deborah Jo Rupp. A character named Abhilash Tandon is Norm, who's played by Asif Ali. Harold Copter is actually Phil Jones, and played by David Lingle. And Isabel Matsueda is Beverly. She's played by Jolene Purdy. And John Collins is the guy we've been watching, especially in the previous episode, as Herb. He's played by David Payton. But noticeably absent from these revelations are Agnes, that's Catherine Hahn's character, and Dottie, Emma Caulfield Ford's character. Because presumably neither woman exists in the real world, or at least exists as a resident of Westview, New Jersey. So obviously they're going to be, both of those characters will probably be revealed to be something else. So we'll see. We kind of already speculated on who Agnes might be, being Agatha Harkness. So the question is, who is Dottie? Got any theories, Nick?
I have a feeling, but as I said, once again, it's just a hunch. Since it seems like we're going down a certain route, could she possibly be Mephisto in disguise?
I was wondering about that because of the implications. The little nods here and there, and especially, what was it, Agnes's comment about the devil being behind everything.
That's right.
So,
and also, she seems very hostile towards Wanda, which makes me think, and as we know, Mephisto is, one of the big antagonists when it comes to sort of the magical world and what have you. And
right.
So my thought, should we say, if I were to put some money down on a theory, I would say it probably is Mephisto. But then again, this is the MCU. They could do a switcheroo on us and give us somebody completely different.
Right, exactly. I think that's a solid theory, personally. I'm all in on that one because right now I don't have a better explanation. So we'll see. But it would make sense, given what we know so far. All right. 3 topics today. Topic number 1, let's talk about Monica Rambeau, our captain of the, at least from the comics, she was the second Captain Marvel after Marvel, who passed away. But she ends up giving away the title and taking other superhero aliases like, hey, Photon, at one point. So maybe that's what she'll become at some future point. We'll see. And let's also talk about Tyler Hayward, this new sword director, as we get some background on what happened with Monica after the blip, the snap, and her return, 5 years later, only to find out that, oh, hey, Monica, your mom has died. Sorry about your luck. She died like 3 years ago. And obviously this is a very traumatic event for Monica in the process. So, Nick, since I went with Jesse first originally, why don't we give your thoughts on these two characters?
Well, first off, I like that we got Maria Rambeau's character a send-off, if you will. At least we found out what happened to Maria Rambeau.
Yeah.
Because obviously last time we'd seen her on the big screen was, in Captain Marvel.
Right.
And that was pretty much the last we saw of her.
As a child, yeah.
Yeah, but also I love the fact that I said that we find out that her mom, becomes the founder of S.W.O.R.D. I thought that was beautiful. I thought it was a nice little tie-in. And the fact that we get, the effect of the blip showing up, people disappearing and appearing and everything, I thought it was great. And of course we get reminded of the 3 years later thing.
Yes.
So I thought that was cool.
That is funny.
But
yeah.
But it was so traumatic. I mean, as you said, it's a sort of traumatic experience for Monica. I felt so bad for her because, she suddenly wakes up out of nowhere, thinking her mom is alive and well, rushing through this hospital, where people are like appearing, disappearing, things are going nuts. And, because obviously she's lost literally track of time because for her, no time has passed.
Right.
Which I think is what a lot of folks we'd seen also in Endgame and other movies had suffered from. The fact that they didn't know, they'd literally lost time. And I thought it was just, I really super felt bad for her. But I like also then the fact that she takes up her mom's mantle, if you will, because she ends up at S.W.O.R.D. and has a steady working job there. It did kind of, I was a little surprised when she tries to access her key card and it doesn't work. And at first I was like, wait a minute, is something going on? But then, of course, we find out that probably her card had expired by that point, maybe, I'm thinking.
Because she disappeared for 5 years. So consequently, presumably they took her out of the database or at least put her as inactive, pending her potential return, I guess. So that was interesting.
It threw me off a little bit, but But I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's right. She'd been gone for a while. But yeah, I just love this character. She's so dynamic. She's so sort of adventurous. It's been a while since we'd seen, shall we say, maybe since Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or maybe even Agent Carter, since we'd seen somebody like this. Kind of not sort of a superpowered being.
Right.
Somebody who's like boots on the ground and doing what. Plus, I love those kind of spy films and TV shows. I like all this kind of
I'm a big espionage
procedurals.
geek too. Yeah, I get that.
So I love that. I thought it was great that, it's kind of a nice compendium to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I wonder if this might then spin off into Agents of S.W.O.R.D. I wonder if we will get a S.W.O.R.D. TV show eventually.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
It would, because also those who are feeling bereft of S.H.I.E.L.D., might get S.W.O.R.D. because the format could be very similar, if you will. Maybe have some of the folks from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. come back and be introduced to S.W.O.R.D. So I think that would be kind of neat. And plus, hey, it would give Coulson something to do, which would be nice.
Provided Clark doesn't want to.
Yeah,
he doesn't. He doesn't want to retire from the role because he's done it for so long.
Yeah,
and we love him so much.
Right,
he's so
exactly.
fantastic.
It's like, no, you have to be Coulson because we need it.
Yes, Coulson is like the best, and I know our mutual friend Rachel is a huge fan. I believe she actually called her car Coulson. That's how much she loves that character.
Cool. Not Lola. Okay.
But no, so I really love this character, and it was great that we got to see all the stuff she had to go through, and once again peeling back all the layers of all the theories we'd had, like the beekeepers and all this kind of. I thought it was wonderful. I was geeking out like there was no tomorrow on all that stuff. And when it comes, to Hayward, I really enjoy this character. He could be a Coulson-like character, if you will. Maybe not. He doesn't maybe have the same kind of, how can I put it, charisma.
Yeah. He's a little bit of a square, isn't he?
I love that Tarantino reference.
Thank you. I did the little finger thing with the square like Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction, yes.
Nice.
For anybody wondering in podcast land, yeah.
He is a bit of a square. He reminds me a little bit of that character from, once again, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the chap that Tremors falls in love with.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay. Tremors.
Yeah.
That's
the
funny.
name is
not Quake.
Yeah, I prefer the nickname Tremors to Quake. I'm a big fan of the Tremors nickname, but yeah, that's who he reminded me of. At first, I was like, "Is that the same guy?" I'm like, okay, no, it's not him. But yeah, so he's a bit of a square.
You mean kind of like Grant Ward before he became really cool character?
Yes, that's right. That's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect thing. I don't know. It might be an interesting relationship between these two because Monica's more the outgoing kind of, take no guff from anybody, and he's more of the square. So it could be like the odd couple in, if you will, in the police department, because you kind of get those relationships.
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe what they're going for. All in all, I really, really enjoyed both these characters. And as I said, just peeling back the layers. We'll get more into it when we get to our next topics. But man, I love this episode.
All right, Jesse, how about you?
So Josh Stamberg had played a character, Luke Scott, in Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip.
Okay.
And was not a very likable character on then. He was kind of this arrogant guy. He came across very nice in this episode, and so you're wondering, unfortunately, they have taught us not to trust anyone in leadership roles, whether it's S.H.I.E.L.D. or S.W.O.R.D. or whatever.
Especially in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, yes.
Yes, yeah. So I'm a little worried about that. But so far he seemed good. You guys already talked about it. It was so neat to see, the after effects. Monica has come back. The confusion. Her being drafted to, I know we were going to start this slow, but we really need someone boots on the ground. This is important. Her, and so as I'm watching this, I'm going, okay, this keeps, it is, they are showing us that our theories are correct, that when you get sucked into this world, you kind of forget who you are. And so I just thought this was really nice to see her. I love seeing her confidence, how strong she was. And And then, they're all worried about her. And then the reveal of everyone what we have been watching was just very satisfying. So, yeah, I love this. I love the reveal of, Monica is who we thought she was. And, and then kind of how she got drawn into this world was good to see.
Yeah. And any thoughts about Hayward?
Just as I said, I don't trust him because of the I mean, he seems very nice. I like him a lot.
All right.
But just based on Marvel Universe, I worry that he will end up being someone you can't trust.
I understand. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you because I keep waiting for Hayward to be kind of like he'll turn out to be a Skrull or something, that something's, that it can't be that cut and dry, right? I mean, this guy's bland as milk toast. He's got to have something underneath, right? But maybe he's just, that ordinary bureaucrat. And I like that, Monica made this comment about like they were talking about him taking on the position, and he says something along the lines of like, well, I was the only one around, and Monica shoots back, well, I wasn't going to say that, but so essentially he became director by default, apparently, because a lot of people got taken out by the snap, the blip. I prefer the snap, but I know the official, in this fictional world, in the fictional universe, they refer to it as the blip, but I don't know. It's kind of like, all right, makes it sound like a video game. I don't know, or a glitch.
Yeah, it sounds like something from Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Call it the snap. That's what it is. It's the snap. I love Monica. I love Teyonah Parris as, when we get to see her as her true character in this, not just playing this, supporting character in a fictional sitcom world. We finally get to see the true character she's supposed to play. And you feel bad for her when she's, reformed and finds out that her mom had died like 2 years earlier, so she didn't get to say goodbye to her mom. And it's in the midst of all this chaos and confusion of everybody coming back at the same time in a hospital, which I have to think is just pure insanity. Like you're trying to process just the idea that, oh, hey, what's all this going on? It's kind of like Rick from The Walking Dead waking up from his coma and finding that he's in this world of zombies. That, here she is, she wakes, she's reforms and finds that, oh, hey, the last 5 years, she hasn't existed, but the life has moved on, apparently, for the people that stayed behind. The other 50% of the universe that Thanos kept. So I felt really bad for her, but Hayward brings her in, as far as, they talk about her, they try to get her back into the sword. She's a little frustrated because, well, she wants to go check out, she wants to take on extraterrestrial missions, but she's restricted to terrestrial duty, meaning on Earth only, because she's one of those blip victims. And apparently this was a policy change that was enacted by her mother, that for whatever reason. Now, we don't know how long the duration is, but apparently, essentially, she's grounded at this point. So Hayward directs her to Westview in this supposedly a missing persons case, but turns out, and when we'll talk about Jimmy Woo here in a second, but it turns out to be more than that. It's a missing town. And when she gets there, Monica, there's this strange barrier around where Westview should be. And just to kind of demonstrate the person she is, she immediately is the type to like, well, hey, I want to check this out. And doesn't just wait for drones to hopefully come back. She goes in and tries to touch it. She wants to see if she can get in, and it sucks her right into this, and altering her perception of reality in the process. So, it's a pretty strong introduction to the character, the real character, as it turns out. And I really enjoyed that. So, anything else about these two characters before we move on? All right. Topic number 2, let's talk Dr. Darcy Lewis and Jimmy Woo as we get the return of 2 characters from the Marvel Cinematic Film Universe. And guys, were you expecting to see Darcy again? or was this a kind of a surprise for you guys? And Jesse, I'll start with you first on this one.
So I've only watched the first Thor 2 movies.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, most of the Marvel universes, I've only watched once. So I did not remember that she was a character.
Yeah.
I certainly knew her from Two Broke Girls,
right?
And other things. So I recognized the actress. Was really cool to see her. I loved her interactions and her snarkiness. The correction doctor, which I later found out because she was not a doctor in the first two films, right?
She was just an intern. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
To Jane. Yeah.
So I think that was nice to see. I love that. One of my favorite characters that tropes is someone who's a smart ass that's smart, and then like the guy. She's asking what everyone does. Well, I don't think we're supposed to talk about it. And then after everyone else goes, the guy tries to say, and she goes, yeah, no one cares. You waited too long. I'm invested into the show was great to see.
Right.
So I love it. Now, someone on Twitter said that their pitch is Jimmy Woo doing a X-Files type Marvel Universe show, that he is the FBI
right.
Investigating odd occurrences in the Marvel Universe, and I say yay. That would be, as someone who just recently got to explore the X-Files a little bit, I'm all into that. I'm like, let's put him and Darcy together and go explore, let them running it, do a series. I'd watch the heck out of that.
Well, like Dick says, there's a potential Sword spin-off series here.
Yes. Yeah. And so I think, I'm just saying I'm okay with him just being in the FBI.
Yeah.
And then having a special thing, It's great. I love the interactions of the characters. I love how smart she is and her, as I said, just her smart ass and snark. That was just truly one of my favorite characters so far in the series, and I hope we see more of her. I know my guess is, and we'll talk about this more at the end, we're going to get another 2 or 3 episodes set in the fictional universe.
Right.
And then I don't know if we will have a mix going forward, or will we just do a couple of episodes only, and then we'll do another one of these. I'm curious to see where they go.
All right. So does it make you want to go back and watch Thor just to see more of Darcy?
No.
No?
No,
Well,
because she isn't the star. I know she doesn't have that big of a
Yeah.
part. No, I'm sorry. No.
All right.
Yes, sorry, Charles. Yes, let's ask that again. Absolutely, Charles. I can't wait.
Okay. Jesse is once again with the raving enthusiasm that we love and respect here. All right. Nick, how about you? What was your take on the return of Darcy and Jimmy Woo?
Well, I can say, though, one thing. In Jesse's defense,
Yeah.
Thor the Dark World is probably not the greatest MCU movie.
No, I agree with that. But Thor, the first one, is okay.
The first one was great.
Yeah.
And funny enough, myself and Holly actually recently reviewed Thor the Dark World. So it was great to see Darcy after, such a brief space of time. Hey, the girl has grown up, she's now no longer this kind of bumbling intern who doesn't know anything about science, and it's like kind of bashing things on the table and they don't work. And here she actually knows stuff. She's basically becoming the new Jane Foster, if you will, which I thought was interesting. Also, to go to the boards real quick, she does introduce something which might be interesting later on, which is the cosmic microwave background radiation.
Oh yeah. You mean like cosmic rays? Perhaps.
I think yes. I think you know exactly what I'm about to bring up here.
So
Charles,
you mean like kind of like the same cosmic rays that maybe gave the Fantastic Four their powers? Those cosmic rays?
Just maybe, yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was thinking that too. Yeah, I was just like, they're setting up cosmic rays. So
yes.
although
fact,
obviously they're not going to call it that because it's not Stan Lee in 1961 anymore. So yeah, they're going to give it a more sciencey.
It's like with gamma. It's like with the Hulk. It's just gamma rays because Stan Lee thought it was cool to use gamma rays.
Right.
But, But yeah, I was geeking out so much about that because it has been teased that the Fantastic Four will return and will actually make their debut in the MCU at some point. So I'm wondering whether this might be the gateway to that, because the fact of the introduction of the cosmic rays, which we know, as you were saying, gave the origins to created the Fantastic Four, and also they are key to a certain Galactus as well, because he has the whole power cosmic, which, man, if they do Galactus properly, I would be the happiest man alive, because I'm dying to see Galactus.
Yeah. Well, first let's get the Fantastic Four right, because we've had four, really, if you count the Roger Corman version, that didn't quite get him right. So maybe fifth time's the charm, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Here's hoping. But yeah, that's Easter egg aside, which obviously I was super happy about. It was. I mean, I really appreciate the maturity of the Darcy character because of the fact that I love that things progress. You know, that they don't sort of reboot characters. They actually mature, which I love about the shared universe. I mean, she's still as snarky as Jesse was saying, but she now is super intelligent. You know, she's like, in a sense, she's really on the ball with stuff. And I thought that was great because before she was kind of like, you know, making weird comments, kind of, oh, what does this button do? What does this button do? And now she's on her game. And I think to myself, Jane Foster would be really proud of you. You know, and who knows, maybe when Thor Love and Thunder comes out, we may see Jane say, oh, wow, you did this. Good for you, girl. You know, you might get that. But I thought it was great. And the exchanges between her and Wu, Randall Park, I love that man because I'm a huge fan of the character from the two Ant-Man movies. Yeah. And he's learned the card trick. I was so happy he finally learned the card trick.
Yeah, he does a little magic, doesn't he? You know, he was. If you remember in Ant-Man and the Wasp, he was really interested in what Scott Lang was doing with that little card trick. Magic. Yeah, so he's just like. Obviously, in the time between that movie and this series, obviously Jimmy has been practicing his card tricks a little bit. A sleight of hand.
We'd actually also seen in Ant-Man and the Wasp when there's like a crisis, he's locked in his office practicing the card trick. And like, Chief, we need you. And the cards are going everywhere. So, hey, he's mastered it. And, hey, it kind of makes him kind of cool kind of to show his card like, boom, like that. It's a close-up magic. It never gets old. But yeah, I love this character, and he seems a little bit more put together, possibly compared to Ant-Man and the Wasp, because he has seen some crazy things, you know, prior to this. Right. But he still, I think, is a little bit wide-eyed at the same time, because he does think like a cop, literally, in the sense to him it's a crime scene. There could never be crazy forces at work or anything like that. I think he's slightly more open-minded, though, compared to Ant-Man and the Wasp, where he was just like, you know, had never seen anything weird. But yeah, once again, the way the two characters work off each other, I definitely agree with Jesse. If they did do Agents of S.W.O.R.D., I'd love to see these guys kind of be the Mulder and Scully, if you will, of the MCU. I think it would kind of neat for them to take on crazy adventures. What about you, Charles?
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, when I first heard that Kat Dennings was going to be returning, reprising Darcy for WandaVision, I was very excited because, you know, I enjoyed the character in the first two Thor movies, but essentially she's just the comic relief character. She's the wisecracking sidekick to Jane. Yeah. So I was kind of curious to see what they would do with her, and what they do with her is actually develop her. And I really like that. She kind of steps out from being the sidekick into more of a leading character here. She's the one that she gets brought in with a bunch of other experts for S.W.O.R.D. to consult, you know, and she makes this observation right off the bat. She's like, okay, there's a bunch of people here from a bunch of different disciplines. So that means S.W.O.R.D. has no idea what's going on here. And from that moment, Darcy, you know, shows that she's just more than the snarky girl calling Mjolnir, you know, meow meow, like she did in the Thor movies. She steps up. She proves herself to be the only one that really pieces things together here. You know, she's the one like Nick with his murder board, connecting the dots and connecting everything, you know, piecing it together and coming up with a her theory, which that about that the couple Avengers have been sucked into a sitcom and getting a handle on things. So I really like that. I really like that they developed her because they needed to. That she couldn't be the exact same Darcy character, the sidekick from those Thor movies. In this position, she had to be a little bit more. So they gave her doctorate. She starts, she almost does the whole like Doctor Who thing. She starts taking, random observations that you wouldn't pick up on and connecting the dots and coming up with plans and how to do things.
Well,
do you think?
Yeah, what I think's nice, Charles, is you needed that character. You needed to have that character somehow. And I remember an interview Peter David did years ago. He had written a young adult novel, Young Worf, right? And he had built this whole universe.
The Starfleet Academy trilogy.
Yes. And then when he was going to do the series of books with the New Frontier novels, right?
Yes,
he's like, I've got all these characters that I set up. Why don't I bring them back? So I could just see them going, okay, we're going to need some kind of scientist. Oh, wait, we've got this character from the first couple of Thor movies. We could bring her and expand her. For someone like me who didn't remember, I still like the character. But for you two who caught that Easter egg immediately, like, holy crap, it's her. Look how she's expanded. So I think that was a definite win-win as far as a writing doing.
Yeah. And it was fun character, established character, so they didn't need to go into this big explanation about her. We kind of knew about Darcy, but we get something more from her, that we didn't, stuff that we had never seen before with her reaching a little bit more potential here. So I thought that was nice. And Jimmy was kind of a throwaway character in Ant-Man and the Wasp, let's be honest. He's just basically the guy to bust Scott Lang's balls a little bit, being his parole officer. But here he gets the chance to be something more. And he shows that he's a competent FBI agent, and he's someone who actually cares about the case that he's working on. He's, he's trying to understand. Maybe he's a little bit out of his depth, although he's obviously getting more experience after dealing with, Ant-Man and now this. But presumably, he kind of feels like almost like a fish out of water at this point. He sees what Darcy's doing, and he's supportive of that. He doesn't try to ride her, doesn't try to give her a hard time. He works with her. They kind of spitball ideas back and forth, and they kind of prove themselves to be a pretty decent team here. And obviously, we're going to get more of these characters going forward as we hopefully get to watch them figure out this mystery of what to do with Wanda and how to get everybody out that's trapped inside Wanda's world that she's created for herself. So it'll be definitely interesting looking forward to seeing what happens. Although, as a Jimmy Woo fan from, reading books like Agents of Atlas, if you've ever read that comic, I'm kind of hoping we would see at some point the Agents of Atlas. But if they don't go down that road, I'd like to see him stay with Sword, because I think there's like we were talking about, I think there's a potential series here, or perhaps a potential movie. Who knows? But I think they could develop this if they wanted to, and if the actors want to continue going forward. So we'll see what happens. All right. Anything else about these two, or Sword, or anything else?
I just wanted to add, Charles, it's interesting that you said how dedicated Wu is. I wondered if it's almost like a parallel to a young Nick Fury before he became kind of hardened and kind of, very sort of the way he is.
Yeah. He's still kind of innocent a little bit.
It's kind of the Nick Fury from Captain Marvel.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of wide-eyed, a little bit, or just, inexperienced in the strange and supernatural, perhaps.
Yeah, and also it's the revenge of the sidekicks. I love it because you have one from Ant-Man and one from Thor. So hey, the sidekicks have to stick together, right? They're getting their moment in the limelight, and And I think that's great. And besides, they couldn't just always be comedic relief, because I think after a while, you'd probably get tired of those characters in the long run if they keep playing that role of being the comedic relief. So I'm glad
they had to
gravitas.
be more. They had to develop, yeah. I mean, if you remember, Coulson was kind of a sidekick, too, to Nick Fury.
Yeah.
But he proved that he could be something more. So maybe we'll get that with these characters as well.
That's why maybe they're going that route, because they've done it before. So, it could be they maybe have found the pattern that works for them.
Or maybe they figured, well, we need a new Coulson.
Yeah, he could be the new Coulson.
And maybe Jimmy Woo is that new Coulson. So we'll see. All right, topic number 3. And this is a topic I had to call Wanda's Vision. Get it? Wanda's Vision. So Wanda in the Vision, this is a big reveal for Wanda. We suspected it from the get-go. Wondered if this was the case. And in this episode, we get confirmation that Wanda has gone bye-bye, Egon. She's gone a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, presumably resulting from the death of the Vision in the in Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. So we get confirmation that she's essentially created her own reality. People are trapped inside, and she was responsible for kicking Monica out of that reality because she didn't feel that Monica belonged there anymore. So, got to know everybody's thoughts on this. So, Nick, we'll start with you. What were your thoughts about Wanda and her tragically fragile emotional state right now?
Well, see, here's where we rightfully called it, on last episode, where it's literally Wanda trying to get over her grief by creating this world. But as you said, she has gone kind of loopy and a little bit yo-yo when it comes to this. She's kind of gone a little bit over the top here. I had actually mentioned in the previous review that that we'd seen that lion in the picture, and where she went full-blown lioness, kind of protecting her cubs when it came to Monica. And here we get to see the full scene of how Monica was tossed out. And it was not pretty. She tossed her out the way you would treat a villain, literally, because she geared up her powers and boom, flew out. It's not like he kind of wafted her off on a gentle breeze. No, she just went boom, and out she goes.
Right through the walls. Boom, 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 and then right out the field.
Yeah, and I have to hand it to Elizabeth Olsen. She's an amazing actress because she plays also. She could even play evil so well. Because I was almost creeped out because we've seen Wanda in Age of Ultron on the wrong side for a spell. No pun intended. Yeah. But then
I see what you did there. Yeah, very clever. Very clever.
But we then see that she's a very gentle person. She's a very kind-hearted woman. But here, it was literally like seeing the Scarlet Witch from the beginning of Age of Ultron. Very ruthless, very brutal. And I was just like, whoa, girl. And so it really makes you think that Wanda's going to become the unwilling or, antagonist in this. Because obviously they want to save her from herself. That's literally what it's going to be about, I think, at the end of the day. But I absolutely loved it because it's also very true to the comics as well. Because the Scarlet Witch in the comics is a very complex character, and is not one side. And I think they're capturing the aspect of this character being so multifaceted, having the power that she does. So I love this. Also, I wanted to mention, I wonder, when we get to see the Vision show up in that very creepy moment, without...
Yes, we should talk about that, shouldn't we?
Without the gem in his head. I wonder whether it was...
Zombie Vision.
Yeah, I do wonder, though, whether it might have been a tribute to West Coast Avengers. Because there was an issue in West Coast Avengers, number 42 from 1989.
John Byrne's era, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah. That's one of my favorites. Some folks poo-pooed the West Coast Avengers, like, oh, they're the wimpy side of the Avengers. I love the West Coast Avengers.
I do too.
And there is that moment where the Vision is actually kidnapped and disassembled, literally. And after that, he loses his humanity because You have the whole thing of Simon Williams not wanting to undergo the whole personality thing that he'd done before.
Wonder Man, yeah.
And so the Vision comes back, but he's literally an android. He becomes like Data, if you will, or like, Bishop from Alien, completely unfeeling.
He's a blank slate.
Yeah.
And just he loses whatever humanity he had, his soul, essentially.
And I wonder whether that was a tribute to the Vision from the West Coast Avengers post Immortus, kind of having him disassembled. I wonder. But yes, it was great. I mean, it was really creepy. I know so many folks were like thrown away by that. It was like, once again, the witch/tramp in David Lynch kind of moment.
Right.
But that was so well shot. I mean, kudos to the director. It was really, really well shot. I really enjoyed it.
Well, my personal theory, I think she's animating his corpse.
That could also be the case too, because it is, of course, the same as in Infinity War, where Thanos rips the soul, the stone out of his head. So it could be that too. It could be, yes, she's doing a reanimator on us too. Could be.
Yeah, kind of that. It's just
Dr. Frankenstein.
That's the reality that crept, that peeked through just for a split second until the fantasy collapsed back into place. All right, Jesse, how about you? What was your reaction to Elizabeth Olsen doing her heel turn, to use a wrestling phrase, and going all big bad?
I love where it kept clipping, right? And they're like, something is censoring. Yeah. Something is censoring this. It's not me. And then, we didn't see this end either. Last episode, there was like it was cut out of ours.
We guessed what happened.
Yes, but we get the reveal this time that it was exactly what we thought. I do agree her being thrown through all the buildings, almost like the Hulk, right, throwing someone. And, it came straight from a comic book, that scene where you just through each wall.
Right.
And then
how did her body survive that?
Yeah.
Good question. Don't know.
Wonderworld, you can't get killed in Wonderworld, maybe.
Or maybe she put her in a like a Sue Richards, force field ball.
Force field,
and shot that
like
through
bubble,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, like Invisible Woman force field. Yeah, maybe that was the case.
So, and then she is juggling a lot of scenarios and things in her mind, and we have talked about this as well. And so that's why when every once in a while something seems to slip, it's like a juggler dropping a pin, but still keeping going. And so to see, the dead Vision, and then like she fixes it up real quickly, and he's like, "Oh, what are we gonna watch on TV?" Which I thought was funny because very seldom on sitcoms do people watch TV. It's kind of one of those things, and I thought that was great. I thought that we've done a lot of speculation on why she's doing sitcoms, and I loved hearing them talk about that. Why is she doing this? Oh, it looks like it's the 60s or the 50s. And, in our mind, this is just somehow in her mind, it's a safe, magical place. And I love, there's that Easter egg where on the billboard it says, like the only home you need, or, you'll be home. And she says, this is our home. No, we can't go anywhere. This is our home. And it's almost cold the way she says it, because the reality is if they try to leave, she's going to have to face the reality. Now, do you think the children are real, or are they just another figment of her imagination?
Well, it's certainly implied, coming from the comics background.
Yeah.
They should be part of the fantasy.
Okay.
They should be revealed. Now the question is, since we talked about them possibly setting up Young Avengers, maybe they will become real.
Yeah.
After all this is said and done.
Yeah.
By the end of the series, but presumably they're all part of the fantasy.
Okay.
Because for one thing, she just spontaneously becomes pregnant and then gives birth rapidly. Like she goes through her 9-month term of pregnancy within the span of like a day or so,
Mhm.
and gives birth to twins. So presumably they're not real. But the question now is, are they going to become real? I think, and we'll have to wait and see on that. I think. So I loved Elizabeth Olsen here because proving once again that she really deserves an Emmy for this series. Doing just all the various sitcom mom episodes and little glimpses of the real Wanda perhaps creeping through. But now we get to see her take that dark turn, and we had speculated that when we were talking about that. Well, is this going to happen? If so, it could be really interesting to watch Elizabeth Olsen, and now we get to see that. Now we get to see her struggling to hold on to this reality. And we, that bit with the vision where we see the zombie vision. I think it's, another example of how she doesn't have control over everything, or sometimes it slips. Because she makes this very, ominous comment, that when the vision is like, well, hey, we can go wherever we want. And she's very insistent, like, no, we can't go anywhere. We have to stay here. But she says, don't worry, darling. I have everything under control. Which right there should be the big tip off. No, she doesn't. She doesn't have everything under control. And it's all going to fall apart. And the question is, how bad is it going to fall apart? How worse are things going to get? Because Wanda, especially now that SWORD has a better idea about what's going on, are going to be doubling their efforts on how to break through and connect to Wanda and bring her out of this. So this great idyllic fantasy world that she's created for herself using her powers, which up until this point we talked about were normally just, kind of like telekinesis and whatnot, have suddenly developed into now reality warping powers and mind altering powers more. So her powers are growing, but in the process of her powers growing, conversely, her stability is decreasing. As she gets powerful, it's kind of like a Dark Phoenix thing. As she grows more powerful, she loses control and tips over more into that dark side. And it's going to be fascinating to watch from this point on. This is such a turning point for this show. And, like we talked about how the people who dismissed this early on, now they get to eat crow big time on this. Because here you go. This is the show that you said you wanted. Well, here it is. So hopefully you're enjoying it like we were from the beginning. Because we're a little more patient. But we'll see how it plays out. And I do, like I said, I do think she's animating Vision's corpse, and eventually that will be revealed to her in a very brutal moment as she has her, for lack of a better term, come to Jesus moment. So we'll see what happens. Perhaps it's a come to Mephisto moment. We'll see how that plays out. Yeah,
I like that.
So yeah, obviously Elizabeth Olsen is going to be the character to watch, or the actress to watch from this point on. All right. Anything else about this episode before we move on?
No, it's funny, right? We didn't get a commercial because we weren't in the fictional universe.
Right.
We got
the program was interrupted, remember? Yeah.
Yes, it was. What was interesting is my wife saw a little bit of this and then had no interest in watching the other episodes. She was like,
really?
Yeah, well, because she isn't into the Marvel Universe. So
okay.
The only reason she would have wanted to watch this is for the sitcom shtick. And then when she saw this, I'm confused. I haven't seen any of the Marvel Universe movies. Like, it's probably better to just – I said, if you get a chance later, we can watch it just for the cleverness of doing the sitcom. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I think I do, once again, we talked about this.
She doesn't want to learn about who these characters are.
Oh no.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Yeah, that's all
right.
Yeah, that's like asking me if I want to learn about all the people that are on the Chicago Med police fire department series on Wednesday on NBC. I have no interest in watching this series. Yeah.
All right.
All
right. Good to know.
Well, I do wonder what would be the better way to see this. I have enjoyed watching a new episode every week because as you talked about, I'm not being impatient. I had actually said when I began this, I wasn't going to do a lot of speculation, trying to understand all the theory. I was just going to kind of watch it. And then and together we've come up with some theories with a lot of you doing the heavy lifting. I do wonder in next year when it's just available to stream all of them in a row, will it be more enjoyable or less enjoyable? I think it will be a little less because of the suspense of trying to figure what's going on. At least,
you've already watched it once, so you know how it's going to play. But you might be able to appreciate
person seeing it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So
a new person who's never seen it just now goes through all 10 episodes.
Binges it. Yeah, well, they're obviously, they're probably, they won't have to wait like we do. So there won't be that suspense.
Yeah.
But they can get a quicker satisfaction and quicker payoff.
Yes, absolutely.
So we'll see. All right. Anything else before we move on?
Well, what I was actually to add to Jesse's point, it's almost becoming, at least to me, an appointment show. As in, basically, Friday rolls around, you're like, yes, there's a new episode of WandaVision to watch. So it's kind of becoming, Fridays is now, for me at least, is becoming like WandaVision Day, which I think is so cool. Yeah. I love when I have appointment shows, where you basically set your day almost according to what's going to be on TV. So I absolutely love that. And I wonder, the whole thing of the sitcoms and stuff, obviously Sokovia is a fictional place, but maybe these are the shows that obviously Wanda grew up watching in Sokovia, and maybe it takes her back to her childhood, and maybe she watched them with Pietro. So it could be that she's, going back through the stuff that maybe was broadcasted on Sokovian television from the U.S.
I have no doubt that is where she learned English. I thought that is where she learned first about America. I absolutely do believe that simpler time. I do have to share with you, Nick.
Probably ties in with the death of her parents as a child that we talked about. Yeah.
Usually, like I had to stay off. I get a couple of mailing lists from like the Sci-Fi TV. And they're like, reveals, like, delete that email. Nope, change it off. And when I got home, Linda had not been home. Usually Linda's home before I am. And the first thing I did is pulled up the Fire Stick, and pulled up Marvel to watch this because I could not wait to see it. So I definitely agree with you. It is very exciting on Fridays to see. And I am looking forward to we said Full House, Friends, and Modern Family, The Office next coming up.
Yeah. Well, for me, I had to wait. I had to be careful because I got, we'll talk about this here shortly, that we got some feedback from Holly Mack.
Okay.
Who had apparently watched the episode like either really early Friday morning or stayed up late the night before.
Yeah, you have these
when it hit,
I know.
When it hit midnight.
Yeah.
So she was just like, right away, boom, sending out feedback. And I'm like, I can't read this yet.
No, you can't.
Because it was like, I won't be able to watch this until like 5 p.m. later that day.
I have seen groups on Twitter of people who
I had to like look out when I go on the internet, if I see articles, well, I got to be careful. What do I click on? And yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen folks on Twitter, like, they gather in groups and agree to watch, basically in the US or whatever, WandaVision as soon as it drops. I mean, it would almost be, at midnight or what have you. So, yeah, I guess Holly was among those who, as soon as the episode dropped, boom, she was there pressing play.
Well, and it doesn't help that all the geek news sites
have
people, like, right at midnight, as soon as the episode drops, they watch it, and then like right away they post articles about it.
Like OMG, I can't believe that Vision did this.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, thank you, appreciate it. A big spoiler.
Thanks for spoiling that. Yeah, because they can't wait. a day to post their damn articles. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Favorite lines. Do you have any favorite quotes from this episode? Obviously with Darcy, there's some pretty good lines in this episode. So anybody have any quotes they want to share?
I had a couple. First off, I wanted to actually share for folks who were wondering the translation to the song that Wanda sings in Sokovian.
Okay.
Apparently,
Go for it.
It had surfaced on the Portuguese version of this. So if you watched it in Portuguese, they actually put the subtitles
all the time.
Yes. And they actually put that for you even in the song. And the song is literally, "We've been waiting for you. Now you are here, more perfect than I imagined. Our house is now a home. No matter where you go, sunlight shines on you." It's very sweet.
It is very sweet. Yeah.
That's and when it comes to quotes, Charles, I had you were mentioning Darcy. Yeah, I did actually have a couple. I don't want to steal any of yours. I hope I am not going to be stealing any of yours.
That's all right. I got a good selection. I think you'll be okay.
Okay, the one first off, Jimmy Woo by himself was like, "I pulled phone numbers for all the residents. I'm only through the D's, but so far I got diddly squat."
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That was good.
And then Jimmy to Darcy. "So you're saying the universe created the sitcom starring two Avengers, Darcy? It's a working theory."
Yeah. She kind of says that, does a reset of that a couple times during the episode. It's pretty funny. And Kat Dennings' delivery of that was
she's
just
perfect. The other
hilarious.
thing, right when she's in the van, a bona fide joint multi-service response. Really looking forward to the commemorative T-shirt.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I thought it was really great. What do you got for us, Charles?
Let's see. I'll do Jimmy and Darcy, where Jimmy says, "What are we looking at here? Isn't it an alternate reality, time travel, some cockamamie social experiment?" And Darcy replies, "It's a sitcom, a 1950s sitcom." Jimmy's like, "But why?" And Darcy replies, "Hey man, we're working with the same scarcity of intel." So,
Nice.
thought that was good. Darcy saying 1950s, 1960s, and now the 70s. Why does it keep switching time periods? It can't be purely for my enjoyment, can it?
Yes.
That was good. And one of my favorite lines in this one, where Darcy's watching the sitcom, and she goes, "Twins, what a twist." And Jimmy Woo just kind of looks at her for a moment, and Darcy says, "What? I'm invested."
And then when she's happily eating the chips while watching it, I love
Yes.
that. That is literally us, the viewers.
Yeah. And she offers Jimmy the chips.
Doug, do you want one?
And yeah, you want one. And Jimmy immediately thinks, oh, she's talking about him wanting kids.
Yes.
So he goes on this spiel like, I always thought I'd get a kid, and maybe I'll get him a little FBI badge, and
Yes.
and then he's like, "Oh, you're talking about the
Remember
chips." Yeah,
Loved it.
that was good. So yeah, we got to see more of these two, and obviously, we still have 5 episodes to go here, but those two make a pretty fun pair, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what's everybody's ratings? I'm presuming it's going to be pretty good. So, Jesse, we'll start with you. What's your rating?
So I'm going to give this 9 out of 10 K-cups of coffee. Bad for the environment, but very tasty.
Yeah, nice. Those pods are bad for the environment.
Yes.
Yeah, and Nick, how about you?
I'm going to give this 9 out of 10 dead visions walking.
Nice.
Ooh,
Nice. The walking visions, yeah. Or as I like to call them, zombie vision. Well, I'm going to make it unanimous, you guys, so I'm giving it 9 out of 10 old, not flat TVs.
Oh, yes,
Nice.
I like
Yeah,
that,
cool.
yes.
I want
Because
it to be
Darcy is
really, really old.
Yeah, like old TV, not flat.
Yes.
Yeah. So I thought that was good. All right, Phantom Zone news. Just have a couple of quick things I want to run down. Nick, obviously, on Jesse, because, hey, Titan Season 3, we got some news that they've cast Tim Drake in the role. They're going to be played by an actor named Jay Lycurgo, who I'm not familiar with, but apparently he's going to be playing Tim Drake. So presumably because Jason Todd becomes the Red Hood, I guess that opens up the Robin slot once again. So maybe Tim Drake will become the third Robin like he is in the comics. So we'll see. But Tim is a much better Robin than Jason is. Let's
Yes,
just put it
he
that
is.
way. All right. Jason's good as the Red Hood. He can stay the Red Hood. But Tim's a better Robin.
Agreed.
And then something that I was ecstatic about finding out, Neil Gaiman revealed the cast, or at least the first 7 actors,
Yes.
for Netflix's adaptation of The Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
And this right now makes me want to start a Sandman podcast. I'm just saying.
It's very
Because-
dangerous for that reason.
I know. I mean, this is something we could talk about in Phantom Zone, but I kind of think it almost deserves its own, like Titans did. Because I'm a huge Sandman fan, and so I was very happy about this. Something that confirmed something that I reported on Damn Good Coffee and Hot back in September, October, where I got saw one of the news articles back then that Tom Sturridge is going to be playing Dream / Morpheus / the Sandman. Asim Chaudhry will play Abel. Sanjeev Bhaskar will play Cain. So I think they're going with a more historically traditional.
Yeah, that's what my thought was.
Yeah, something that, you could kind of believe that what the Cain and Abel looked like way back in the day.
Exactly. In the old Bible times, yes.
Exactly. Not just like a couple of white dudes. Yeah. Something I thought was interesting, Gwendolyn Christie, who of course was on Game of Thrones and played Captain Phasma in Star Wars, the sequel trilogy. She's going to be playing a female version of Lucifer Morningstar.
I'm so excited about that.
So we're not getting the Tom Ellis version, but that's okay because that kind of version is a little different than the Sandman version. And I think it's kind of like, almost kind of like, who's the actress that played the Ancient One? I can't remember her name.
Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton. Thank you very much, Nick. So I'm going to give you points for that because you remembered that right off the top. So Tilda Swinton, if you watch the Constantine movie with Keanu Reeves.
I was just thinking that. That's why her name was on the top, was at the top of my head. Because when she plays Gabriel, yeah.
Yeah, when she plays Gabriel. So the vibe I'm getting is they're going the similar route with Gwendolyn Christie playing Lucifer. And I think if they go that route, it'll work really well.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of Game of Thrones, Charles Dance, the guy who played Tywin Lannister, is going to be playing Roderick Burgess, the sorcerer, magician that is the one who captures Dream in the first place.
Yeah.
That gets the whole ball rolling in this. So I think that's great casting. Boyd Holbrook will play the Corinthian. So I'm just glad we're getting the Corinthian. And his eyes made of teeth.
Yes.
And lastly, Vivian Achimpong, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, will play Lucienne, a female version of Lucian, who is Dream's, the head of the library.
Yeah, she's like the head librarian or whatever.
But he's kind of like the head guy in charge of the major domo. That's what I'm looking for.
That's the word, yeah.
He's more like the major domo, I think. So that's going to be interesting. So we've got 2 kind of gender-bended characters, but should be interesting to check out.
But then again, angels and such are asexual, so then again they could kind of look androgynous, so it could look
androgynous. Yeah, exactly. I think you're right. It could be like in the case of Tilda Swinton as Gabriel and Constantine. So it should be interesting to check out. And Neil Gaiman has said that he wants to present this as a series that he is created today, as opposed to like when he created Sandman in 1988. Obviously, you're going to be a little bit more diverse these days.
Mm-hmm.
So we did get some fan mail. We actually got 2 fan mails, Phantom Zone fan mail from, like I said, Holly Mack, who unwittingly tried really hard to spoil this for me regarding episode 4. I'm just teasing you, Holly. I really appreciate you writing in. So she writes in about, we interrupt this program saying, hey, Charles, Jesse, and Nick.
Hey, Holly.
Hey, Holly. The opening with a reverse of the snap, good for you calling it the snap, was something very unexpected. I was kind of expecting it to pick up from where the last episode ended briefly, and then headed back to Wanda and Vision. Okay, Westview doesn't exist, but Eastview does. Something fishy going on. Hello, Darcy. Also explained some of the things that we saw and had questions about in the first 2-ish episodes. Wanda's starting to realize what's happening. I'm thinking Wanda is doing this to protect herself, but I'm also wondering if there isn't someone else out there helping her and pulling the strings. Interesting. Well, I don't think she's protecting herself. I think she's kind of teetered over the edge a little bit. But maybe somebody is kind of manipulating her. We'll see. Something to keep an eye on. Nice touch at the end with Jimi Hendrix's Voodoo Child. Yeah, I won't play that again, but it was awesome, right? Looking forward to next week's episode and to see how much more involvement, if any, Sword is going to have. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Holly. Always great to hear from you.
Thank you, Holly.
And lastly, we have Dave Proctor writing in about We Interrupt This Program. So hi, Dave.
Hey.
Glad to know you're out there listening and watching. Dave says, I just watched this episode and my mind is blown. After listening to this podcast, I was forewarned about what might be coming, but still wasn't prepared. Well, like you said, we did try to warn you. Y'all did a really awesome job. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
I can't wait until I hear this week's episode. Keep up the great work. The show is reawakening the adolescent feelings I had for Marvel, and this podcast is providing what I haven't had since the Army. Friends that love it as much as I do. Aww.
You old softy,
Yay,
Dave.
Nice.
You're a softie. Yeah, exactly.
We love you too.
We definitely appreciate it. We're glad we're here for you, and hopefully we're here for other people as well, especially like Holly or some of our other listeners. So if you want to be like Holly and Dave, and please do, write to us at phantomzonecast@gmail.com. That's phantomzonecast@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter at phantomzonecast on Twitter. Facebook, of course, the Phantom Zone Podcast, or Instagram at Phantom Zone Podcast. And Jesse, where can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW. And from there, you can, I'm also on Facebook, Jesse Jackson, Instagram, Jesse Jackson. From there, you can reach out to me. I'd love to hear what your thoughts. How about you, Nick?
Well, when it comes to me, for you country music lovers, I do host the Whiskey and Cigarettes show where we play today's country, traditional country, and everything else in between. For more information about that and where to tune in, you can visit our website. That's whiskeyandcigarettesshow.com. Podcast-wise, if superhero movies are your speed, I do host Happiness and Darkness, the superhero movie podcast, where the aforementioned Holly Mack joined me to discuss Thor: The Dark World recently. If you'd like to send us an email and discuss your favorite superhero movie, you can send that at happinessanddarkness@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And also one of our most recent projects, Gold Standard, the Oscars movie podcast, where with Zan Sprouse and Rachel Friend, we're discussing all the movies that won the Oscar for Best Picture from 1927's Wings to the present day. And what about you, Charles?
Well, Nick, as for me, of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on the Facebooks, and at Charles Skaggs on Instagram. You can also find me on my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on the Phantom Zone. So like WandaVision, Watchmen, Stargirl, all kinds of comic book sci-fi news. Use my other podcast for the Southgate Media Group, including, well, hey, Titan Talk the Titans podcast that I do with Jesse and DJ Nick, where we talk Titans and Doom Patrol, even though we're on the hiatus right now. But as you can hear, we're getting some casting news. We got Barbara Gordon cast, and now we're getting Tim Drake. So hopefully we're getting ever closer to maybe we'll need to do an episode to kind of set up Titan Season 3, fingers crossed. And then there's Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast they do with Zan Sprouse, where we talk all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch. And currently we just finished recording our episode review of Wild at Heart, the 1990 film of David Lynch starring Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern and Willem Dafoe, Diane Ladd, and that was a very interesting discussion. Had a lot of fun with that. And then coming up next, we're going to be talking Lost Highway, another David Lynch film from 1997, I believe, which has a very interesting performance by Robert Blake and Robert Loggia and some others that is going to be a lot of fun to talk about. And then Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast that I do with Jesse, my partner in time, and assorted special guest companions. And right now we just talked with Zan as we discussed Resurrection of the Daleks. And coming up for the next 4 episodes, we're going to be discussing each serial in the Trial of a Time Lord from season 23, featuring Colin Baker and Nicola Bryant. as the Sixth Doctor and Perry Brown, and the introduction of Bonnie Langford as Melanie Bush in the process. So Rachel Friend's going to be joining us from the Five-ish Fangirls podcast, and Nick and I are actually going to be discussing Wonder Woman on the Five-ish Fangirls podcast tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Everybody check that out. And then last but certainly not least, Drunk Cinema, where Zan Sprouse and I, we just talked The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. And then coming up here probably next week, or this coming week, we're going to be discussing Young Frankenstein as we pay tribute to the late Cloris Leachman, who died this past week. So rest in peace, Frau Blucher.
Yes, indeed. Long life wishes to the family, indeed.
What was going to be just a fun little discussion has now become a tribute to Cloris Leachman in the process. But so that's what I'm up to. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. We definitely appreciate the feedback from Holly and Dave. Guys, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Just super happy to be with you both, and I love this. Can't wait for the next episode.
Yeah, especially now that the truth has been revealed about what's going on. It's Wanda, you guys. It's Wanda. She's behind everything. So it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. So come on back next time, episode 204, as we discuss WandaVision episode 5. And we'll see you right here next time on the Fandom Zone podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Yo.